Hello again and welcome to Finding Your Way Around MicroStation Connect. In this video we will go through setting up your file, how you're going to set up your file before you start drawing. So I'm going to click on my shortcut, wait for a few seconds. And that's the screen you open up with. So in our last session we went through some of the basics of what MicroStation, the welcome screen and the screen would look like. We're going to continue from that session. So here you have two options here, to browse and find and open an existing drawing or to create a new drawing. So in this session we're going to see how to create a new drawing and set up a brand new file. So I'm going to say new file. I put it on my desktop. Always remember where you're saving your files. I'll call this file tutorial 2. Now before I hit the save button, I'm going to make sure that I've selected the right seed. We went through this in the previous session. So if your seed is not pointing to 2D metric drawing seed, make sure you click on browse and then select 2D metric drawing, open. So once you've selected the right seed and given a file name, remember where you've saved it. In this case I've saved it on the desktop. If you have a USB drive, make sure you save it on your USB drive. I'm going to say save, wait for a few seconds, and that's going to open up a brand new file. Okay, so currently I have tutorial 2 and that's the drawing I just I opened up, or rather I just created. So if you look at this, that's the title bar. So in the title bar I have the name of my drawing. Okay, so tutorial 2, DGN the extension, and 2D being the seed. Okay, on the left hand side here I've selected drawing. Okay, that's my quick access toolbar, and on the tabs here it's currently home is active. Okay, so I'm going to use the tools that are available in this tab. So there's multiple panels and each panel has tools. So if you look here, all your drawing tools are in this panel. Okay, all your modifying tools, break element, delete, trim, creating fillets, extending, all that is under modify. Okay, so all your basic tools that you need or require to draw are under the tab home. This is my drawing space, so anything I draw would be in this. Now right at the bottom here you can see a whole lot of numbers. Okay, so you can see in this case you can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. I'll just change the color of my highlighter or pen and make that a little bit more obvious. There you go. So I've got 1 to 8. You would have noticed that only one has been selected. That means I have only one view opened. Now for your for this particular unit you don't need more than one view. If you're working in an assembly where you have multiple parts, you can have different zoom levels and different views for different parts. In this case we're only drawing detailed drawings, so one view is more than sufficient. So one is highlighted and that's more than enough. On the left hand side of that, that's my seed which I've selected, and here of course the coordinate system which I'm going to be using. I'll show you in a minute how to change that. So to start off with, I'm going to show you how to save your file. So you go to file, okay, save, so that saves your file. If you want to save settings, file, save settings, and that saves the settings. So if I change my units, change the grid, change anything that is not in the default file, you have to make sure that you save settings. Now you can automate this. I'll show you that in a minute as well, how to automatically set up the save settings as well. Now as usual, F1 is for help. So if I press the F1 key on my keyboard, it opens up the help. Okay, I'm not going to go further here, I don't need this, but F1 is for help. And that is same as any other applications. Now if I hover over any particular tool, see what happens. The tooltip gives me information as to what that tool can do. So arc, see there it says arc tools, so that means if there's a drop down arrow, there are different arc tools available here. Same goes with lines. If I click on the drop down arrow, it says I can draw just ordinary line segments or smart lines. So every time I hover over the tool, it tells me what that tool can do, and if there's a drop down, it gives me more options. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start setting up my units and my grid. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to File. Okay, so I've gone to File. I'm going to go to Settings. Okay, so File, Settings. Here under Settings, I want to change the settings of my existing file. So I'm going to say File, okay, and Design File Settings. Okay, so I'm going to click on this. I'll just highlight that in red. So I go to Settings, I go to File, and then I click on Design File Settings. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. Now it opens up this dialog box. Okay, so here I'm going to go to Working Units. Okay, so I'll go to Working Units, and under Working Units I'm going to select millimeters, because we are going to be working only in millimeters throughout this unit. So I'm going to say millimeters. Okay, so you want your master units and your subunits to say millimeters. I'll say okay. Gets out of that screen. I'll go back and click on Design File Settings. This time, see, it's automatically showing me millimeters. I'm going to say grid. Okay, I'll turn my grid lock on. What happens when I turn it off, I'll show you a little later. For now, just turn it on. And I'm going to set my master grid to 1 and my grid reference to 10. Now again, what that means, once a file opens up, I'll explain that in a minute. So set my master grid to 1 and my grid reference to 10 and say OK. Okay, now one more little thing, you don't have to change anything. If I click on scale, I'm currently working at 1:1 scale. Don't change anything, just go and have a look and say OK. Yeah, so once now, so I've set up my units and I've set up my grid and I've checked the scale so that I'm working at 1:1. So once I've done that, I go back to my drawing screen. I'm just going to remove all these highlights now that we've done with it. Okay. And that's about it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is, if you look at my screen now, I cannot see a grid. It's disappeared. The reason being, it's not actually disappeared. Previously it was in meters, now it's in millimeters, so it's extremely small. It's in the background, you can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my mouse wheel forward slowly, and there you go. See, it begins to appear. Only because the grid was so small you could not see it. Okay, now that we are here, I'm going to show you how to use your mouse wheel. So with your mouse, so you need a 3-button mouse, so 2 buttons and a wheel in the center. If you roll your mouse wheel forward, you know what, I'll draw something so that would make more sense. So if I roll my mouse wheel forward, I zoom in. If I roll my mouse wheel backward, I zoom out. If I double click my mouse wheel, it fits it. Now if I press my mouse wheel, I can pan it. So if you want to stay in one side of a drawing, there you go. You can pan it. Okay. So if you want to fit it in the screen, double click your mouse wheel and that fits it in. Okay. So we've seen the mouse wheel operations as well. Now the next thing that I want to show you how to do is changing your background color. If you are not comfortable with the default gray, you would like to have it in black or white, I'm going to show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to File, okay, and in this case I'm going to go to Settings. No, I should not go at Settings. I go to Preferences, Tools. Okay, so sorry, no, I shouldn't be there. Just hold on. Okay, so Settings. From File, I click on User. So we don't want to change the file settings as such, but it's my user preference settings. So I'm going to click on User and then go to Preferences. Okay, now this brings me to this whole pop-up screen. Here I have View Options. Under View Options, see here, Drawing Background. I'm going to click on that and change the color to white. I just say I want white, or you know what, I'll just keep that as white. Say OK. I'll come back to the screen in a second. I just want to go and show you the background. See, the background is now changed to white. Okay, so I'm going to go back there, Settings, User, Preferences, and since we are here, the other thing I want you to do is go to Operations and make sure that your Save Settings on Exit is turned on. So you don't have to constantly click on Save Settings. You are automating the process. So make sure you click on Save Settings on Exit. That is so important, because when you do not save your settings on Exit, you would lose your settings when you save your file and exit it. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to go back to my file. So now if you look, coming back to the grid, if you look at each grid space, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 spaces. Okay, so if I draw a line, okay, look at that. If you look at the bottom here, it'll say 10. Okay, so from this end to this end, okay, one grid box, okay, is 10 units, and the distance between each dot is 1 unit. Remember when we set it up as grid master as 1 and grid reference as 10. It means that the space between them is 1 unit, and for each grid box the total distance is 10. So that's 1 and 10. If I change it to 2 and 5, this distance would measure 5, and the distance between the grid spaces would be 2. Okay, now I turned my grid lock on. I promised you that I'm going to explain what that meant. So if I'm drawing a line, say I click, I'll just zoom in a little bit more. So if I click here, see, it picks up the closest grid point. See that? It jumps from grid point to grid point. So that is because I've got my grid lock on. Okay, if I decide to turn my grid lock off, so if I see my grid lock, it's on. If I decide to turn it off, I'm just going to go back to my file, settings, design file, grid, it's turned off. I'll say okay. Go back there. See here, it's not picking up the points. It allows me to pick any point. Now it's a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes you would need your grid lock on, sometimes you want to turn it off. So accordingly you can turn it on and off based on your requirement. Okay, so I'm going back to my drawing. If at any point you want to delete it, all you need to do is element selection. Okay, just draw a nice big, you can select individual elements. So see here, individual, it's currently, so just click on that and then hit the delete button, it's gone. If you want to select a whole lot, then see, just draw a window and then hit the delete key. Any point you want to bring it back, Control Z, undo. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this whole lot, delete, and it's done. So currently I've set up my file. I'm going to go and say file, save. Okay, so if you haven't automated it, you would say file, save settings as well. Okay, I'm going to end this video at this point because I do not want to keep my video too long. But in the next session, I'm going to show you how to set up dimension styles and text styles and how to create levels. Okay, so keep watching. Bye for now.